Hello and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand on all smart televisions including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It is Wednesday, May 31st, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm out South Florida senior reporter John Hayden. Al has the night off. This evening we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ+ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ+ evening news show. Whatever happens, unique in LGBTQ+ news, you'll see it.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed specifically for the LGBTQ+ community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbian, trans, student youth, seniors, HIV, AIDS, healthcare, business, social, justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ+ media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community.
All right, well, we made it to Wednesday. It's hump day. See, there can be humping without Fayin out here. And I am flanked by doctors today on the show. So let's begin by welcoming anchor, Dr. Dino Mosquera. He joined the Miami Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in the late 1990s and now serves on the Outshine Film Festival's board of directors. He is the screening committee chairman, selecting films for one of America's most important LGBTQ+ film festivals. Welcome, Dino.
Thank you, John. Let's welcome anchor Buddy Frey. Buddy is a longtime South Florida resident. He enjoys our large, diverse community and supports many of our local not-for-profit organizations like Julian's Pound of Youth and the Stonewall National Library Museum. Welcome, Buddy.
Thank you. Now let's welcome anchor Bobby Huen. Bobby is a certified civil and family mediator. As the founder and principal mediator at BH Conflict Resolution Services, he helps families, businesses, and individuals resolve disputes of all types. Having grown up everywhere from Hong Kong to Boston, Bobby is proud to offer a global perspective to current events. When he is not at the office or here at It's Happening Out studio, Bobby enjoys gaming, Lego building, and hanging out on the drive. So welcome, Bobby.
Thank you, Buddy. And let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro, an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is the author of 9 books, including the forthcoming Refrain in Lights, an entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and music reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ+ and mainstream publications and websites. His movie review column called Screensaver can be found in San Francisco's Bay Area Reporter, Q Notes Carolinas, RottenTomatoes.com, and more. Good evening, Gregg.
Good evening, Doc. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ+ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Tuesday, May 31st. Turn that frown upside down. It's National Smile Day.
It is. And isn't there another day this weekend that's an important date this weekend? On
Yes.
a Friday?
Yes, my birthday is in 2 days.
Yay!
Y'all are mean to me anyway. But yeah, thank you.
Happy birthday, Greg. How is that mean?
Well, they don't see what's going on when we're not on the air. But yes, thank you.
Oh, well.
I love you.
Oh, now I'm blushing. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Sorry, I got a text behind. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Lake County Pride organizer warns of mass exodus of LGBTQ plus Floridians. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and his many anti-LGBTQ laws have triggered a mass migration out of the state. This comes as several transgender people are reportedly using GoFundMe for donations to move out of Florida. Several pride groups in the Sunshine State have canceled events worried about possible blowback from law enforcement. The president and CEO of Lake County Pride, Danielle Olivani, said on the Daily Beast, the New Abnormal podcast, that their events are going forward. Olivani said that the legislation signed by DeSantis has led to a mass migration out of Florida. State Representative Ana Escamani said DeSantis is pushing, quote, an extreme agenda fueled by disinformation, isolating already marginalized people, end quote. LGBTQ plus advocacy group Lambda Legal says the bills reveal a, quote, callous disregard for LGBTQ plus Floridians and trans youth by facilitating homophobia and transphobia and exposing this most vulnerable population to discrimination, harassment, and abuse, end quote. One of the bills includes limitations on gender-affirming treatments for minors, such as puberty blockers and sex reassignment surgery. Oh, this story makes my heart sad.
Yeah.
Because people shouldn't have to leave their homes. It's probably exactly what DeSantis wants. Fewer people to vote against him. Here, I hope that these people, if they're leaving, are going to Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, or Nevada, so that their votes can really make a difference. But the idea that you have to be a refugee in your own country, I mean, this is something we haven't really faced since the 1860s. You know, in the Civil War, when people went from north to south, and of course, mass migration of African Americans afterwards. But the idea that you have to flee to somewhere else in the country just to be treated the way you're supposed to be treated is criminal. And I hope anybody who voted for DeSantis is absolutely ashamed of themselves right now.
A pox on their households, yes.
Well, I'm wondering, from a medical perspective, if you sign up for a healthcare service and something like this changes, and suddenly in the middle of your yearly payment, suddenly now you can't receive medical treatment. I'm wondering if there isn't a lawsuit there saying, now wait a minute, I paid for product A, and now I've got product A minus what I need. And I'm wondering if that's not going to start popping up, because I have friends who have a child who is questioning. She wants to become a he. But, you know, they're trying to explore it through therapy and family therapy and trying to fully understand the full extent of it. And I know that right now they're not planning to move as long as their insurance covers what they need. But, it's going to be questionable. And I can understand that because your health is priorities.
I think the answer to that question is that while the Florida legislature can say that insurance companies don't need to cover it, doesn't mean that insurance companies cannot, or automatically must ban it. They can, as much as as the case of Disney, Ron DeSantis and his cohorts like to dictate what private corporations
we all know Dwayne Wade and his
Gabrielle Union, they left.
And they left because they just couldn't trust the situation. And I understand that because your child's health comes first.
Absolutely.
Right, but we have
to stand up and we have to stay here. And
we have reported before that in the state of Texas, actually they have, the glorious governor Abbott, that they have tried to accuse parents that are pursuing, children that may, go through transition therapy, accuse them of child abuse. And actually start,
But there are lawsuits against that at this point, aren't there?
Yeah, right, but things are happening already, and things keep happening and changing, and the legal system to accommodate this craziness.
And what's to stop DeSantis from doing the same thing?
Right. Actually, I think part of the law is to remove the child from their family pending investigation, which is just authoritarian manners. Like it is this with no signs of abuse, but you can just call it abuse. It's like calling drag queen sexually explicit performances when you have no evidence that it is.
It's bullying. It is. It is intimidation. It is all sponsored by the state. And you know what 2 people at this table are? They're doctors. each of you guys. You know who's not a doctor? Ron DeSantis. Most of his minions around him in Tallahassee. And really the state surgeon general, just barely. Barely.
Yes.
So please, if you have a child, absolutely, go to where you need to go to take care of it. But if you're single, if you've got adult children, if it's something that doesn't affect you legally, please stay and fight.
Yes.
Please stay and fight, because we need you incredibly, incredibly badly at this time.
And we need to support them.
Yep.
So let's continue. Next, let's queer up the worldview. Far-right protesters threatened deadly Thursday in Jerusalem in response to the Pride Parade. A far-right group, Lahava, is gearing up for potential violence at tomorrow's Jerusalem Pride Parade, posting many threatening messages in an internal chat group, wishing for the deaths of pro-LGBTQ+ marchers. One group member posted a banner for a counter-protest against the parade, adding, quote, "Deadly Thursday in Jerusalem." The rhetoric was posted in a Telegram group called Jews Don't Stay Silent, belonging to the extremist organization led by veteran far-right activist Bentzi Gopstein, a close political ally of Israel's national security minister and once a candidate in a far-right party with Ben Gvir. Gvir was once at the forefront of the extremist protests against the parade, before gaining responsibility for the police force and the march's security arrangements for this year. He's rejected calls from organizers for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to sideline him from dealing with the event. How ridiculous is that? The gentleman who is forefront of calling for violence is now in charge of the security issues.
Right.
And the Jerusalem Pride is one of the largest Middle East pride festivals. On the size, I think the last time I heard it was over 300,000 or 500,000 people. And now this gentleman who is so extreme in his thoughts is now sitting there saying, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you."
You know, when we're commenting on the previous news, I couldn't help but make parallels, you know, of what Jews had to deal with in the Nazi Germany, you know, and when a group is targeted, you know, in our case, it's being the transgender community right now and the LGBT community in the state of Florida, how they had to leave their country and move all around the world, and they have to be, because they were persecuted and then exterminated. You know, saving the differences. Okay, I'm not gonna not just, you know, equating the two things, but can help to, you know, make the parallels that we're going through similar situation, and that somebody in Israel, the far right, can support this. You know, they can support this discrimination against the LGBT community within Israel. Don't you consider that you have been going through this you know, for years?
And they may likely be children of survivors as well. They may very, you know, let me just say that Lahava Nagila would be a fabulous name for a super Orthodox drag queen. Second, the good news is that these Haredi homophobes opt out of military service. So these ultra Orthodox morons are not in the Israeli army. So that means they probably don't know their way around deadly weaponry, which makes me wonder, will they just be throwing stale knishes and matzo balls at the Pride Parade marchers? I mean, what are they going to do?
Not to rain on your parade, Greg, but several years ago, I don't remember the exact year now, it was actually a right-wing protester did march into Jerusalem parade and stabbed a young girl to death. She was not queer herself. She was an ally, and he was quickly arrested. And to this day, the right wing still mention him in a favorable light. And the problem with this, that this is all Netanyahu's own doing. He cozy up to the right wing in order to get his term back, in order to escape prosecution of his corruption charges. And so we have an Israeli government that's turning more and more right. And aside from LGBTQ, they also have issues with non-Jewish Israeli citizens and Palestinians And before I wade into, before I need to don a fire suit for incoming comments, I'm just going to stop here. But I'm just saying that the right-leaning way of Israeli politics is not going to go away anytime soon.
Well, it's not going to go away here either.
No.
And we say that this is one of the largest. I don't know where else. Maybe Tel Aviv has a
for
larger
sure.
pride. Okay,
For sure.
But 'cause, I mean, we're certainly. Let's just take a minute to say at least we're having one in this region, because I'm pretty sure there's not one in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, or Yemen, or even Jordan.
Even Istanbul.
Even Istanbul. We recorded on that yesterday. That they're banned in Turkey. But we have to, and we can look at it from afar and see the good that they're actually having it, and the bad that it's not, that you've got under threat. But how close are we to that in America?
We're very close.
And that because, I mean, right now we're very lucky in South Florida. We're getting ready to have our Pride Parade in 2 weeks, the Stonewall in Wilton Manors, which is Greater Fort Lauderdale. Miami Beach Pride was last month. We had Hollywood Pride in January. We have a lot of prides. And our sheriffs and our police forces embrace help. Well, yes, they not only march with us, but they embrace help. They talk with Joint Terrorism Task Force, things like that. We're very, very lucky. But in some states, and I'm just tossing these out, I don't know any specific one, but you could be in a deep red state in Topeka, or you could be in rural Colorado, and the sheriff who's charged with your security, everyone's security at all events, might say, you know what, federal government, you know what, Joint Terrorism Task Force, we've got this. Nothing's going to happen. They don't have to actively support terrorists.
They just have to ignore it.
They just have to, they can just ignore it. And it does just as much, if not even more damage. So we need to be vigilant. We need to stay on top of our leaders. Not here, yes, here in South Florida, but that's not really our issue. We have a lot of issues, but that's not it. But we need to stand up for our brothers and sisters in small towns throughout the country to have the prides. Prides go up for a vote. Wilton Manors goes up for a vote. I don't know. I didn't realize that, but it makes sense to get their permit.
Right.
And there was a pride in rural Tennessee that the Republican mayor approved it, broke a tie to approve it, which is the right thing to do, to let people be heard. So it's so close in so many small places. So let's make sure that we support them and don't take our safety here in the blue bubble of South Florida for granted.
Yeah, with that being said, next, let's square up LGBTQ plus civil rights. U.S. may restrict Ugandan officials' visas over anti-LGBTQ plus law. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says the United States may consider restricting visas for some Ugandan officials after the country adopted one of the world's toughest anti-LGBTQ plus laws. He said the U.S. will consider deploying existing visa restriction tools against Ugandan officials and other individuals for abuse of universal human rights, including the human rights of LGBTQ plus persons. The U.S. was, quote, deeply troubled, and a quote, by Uganda's Anti-Homosexuality Act, which was signed into law by the Ugandan president. President Biden quickly condemned the law as tragic violation of universal human rights and threatened to cut aid and investment to the East African country. State Department guidance for U.S. citizens and business on travel to Uganda was also being updated. While Washington will also help develop mechanisms to support the rights of LGBTQ plus individuals in Uganda and to promote accountability for Ugandan officials and other individuals responsible for or complicit in abusing their human rights. A rights group announced it's filed a legal challenge with Uganda's High Court, arguing the legislation is blatantly unconstitutional. The European Union, United Kingdom, UNAIDS, the Global Fund, human rights groups, and LGBTQ plus organizations also expressed their shock at the adoption of the law. You know, you start seeing this thing. I mean, Uganda is not the first time, obviously, we know. But, you know, a lot of this movement behind that, there is a lot of right-wing Americans with money that are, you know, exporting their agenda to countries and supporting, you know, things like this in countries, particularly poor countries in Africa and Latin America.
Vulnerable. And why aren't we restricting the visas of those fanatical religious leaders and organizations?
Because we can't. I mean,
We have money.
They are Americans. They can come and go as they like. We cannot restrict their travel to somewhere else just because we don't like what they say elsewhere. The problem with Uganda is that, and actually the problem with the state of the world today regarding this Ugandan law is, decade ago when Uganda did the first time, it was easy to just threaten sanctions, withdraw aid. But in the world today, when we are now, there's an emerging bilateral world once more. It is no longer just one global superpower, there's two. And the other one, also known as People's Republic of China, they don't care about anti-LGBT law. The European Union, we can yank the funding. They will come with chests of gold, just to bring the other country to the side. Uganda just need to, sign away the rights to their minerals under the ground, and China would be their sugar daddy. Yeah. So, as frustrated as activists on our side can be, it's very difficult to tell the State Department, to tell President Biden that you must punish. I mean, what are we going to do, bomb the country?
Well, and we also have to pay attention because the minute we start pulling funds, you're right, somebody else is going to supplement those funds. But, the United States has to take responsibility because they're extreme religious community of evangelicals have for 25 years flocked to Uganda because
poisoning their minds
because they knew exactly how vulnerable and how delicate the situation was over there, and they went over there thinking we'll control this population while we're trying to figure out what we're doing in our population, all in the name of God. Which is sad.
Right, and you referenced the PRC, and before them also was the Soviet Union. They've been taking those chests of gold to underdeveloped countries in Africa, famously South Africa, where they control.
That was exactly what happened during the Cold War. The Cold War, we hold our tongue and supported Batistas. We supported brutal dictators like Pinochet. We supported, Perón because if Americans don't go and fund them, someone else would, and that someone is exactly our ideological rival, the USSR. But now it's a new reality. USSR is gone. Russia is pretty much irrelevant. Now who is it? The People's Republic of China.
And China has very little use for organized religion.
No.
But in this case, they're happy to let
the U.S.?
No, not U.S. Religions.
Right.
Religions just come in and enforce a social order so that the PRC doesn't have to, and that gets them a little bit further in with churches, right? And missionaries.
Actually, there's more than that. So PRC's approach to foreign aid is that I'm not going to put preconditions to giving you that bunch of money. Our preconditions are purely economic. You give me your mining rights. You give me, they are not, they don't ask you to reform. They don't ask you to democratize. Unlike Western countries, unlike European Union, they'll rather build you the highway instead of training you how to build a highway. And that looks good to dictators in the third world because that's instant result.
That's what they're doing in Venezuela right now. China is doing in Venezuela right now.
I mean,
all over Latin America.
Sri Lanka they're doing this to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka went bankrupt because of it. And the thing about, and the value neutral judgment is what PRC put themselves up and say, we are not going to judge your country. Do what you want. Kill all the gays that you want. We are just coming here to invest. We are completely neutral.
Right.
That's how they land these contracts with countries that desperately want to cash, but don't want to turn to USA for help.
That's right.
Yeah. It goes much more beyond human rights. They are hand in hand, leg intertwined with leg.
The biggest question is the U.S. going to have to regress back to that level? Are we going to now abandon the promise of global human rights in order to compete against PRC so that we don't lose a foothold on our corner of the world?
Well, we will watch it, and I think the answer to your question may not come until next November.
Hopefully. Oh, no. And it's me again. So next, queer up business. Are they really allies? LGBTQ plus activists work on ways to support equality after brand boycotts. General merchandise retailer Target has removed Pride products and relocated displays to the back of certain stores in the South. Activists in the LGBTQ plus community are calling for new campaigns to convince corporate leaders not to cave into anti-LGBTQ plus groups. Their decisions were aimed at ensuring the safety and well-being of its employees after protesters knocked over pride signs and confronted workers in stores. The controversy comes at a time when conflict over LGBTQ plus rights is simmering. California State Senator Scott Wiener, also a member of the LGBTQ plus legislative caucus, said, quote, "We need a strategy on how to deal with corporations that are experiencing enormous pressure to throw LGBTQ plus people under the bus," end quote. The hostile environment has prompted some groups to hire security consultants to advise them on activities planned for Pride Month, which begins tomorrow. Deborah Porter, Executive Director of Pride Northwest in Portland, Oregon, said there have been discussions about a possible boycott, a letter-writing campaign, and other actions directed at Target, but plans for an organized protest hasn't yet materialized. A few weeks back, Bud Light, Adidas, and many other brands faced transphobic backlash. And I will directly address that question to Ms. Porter. Don't boycott. Because, for one thing, I sympathize. Look, I'm disappointed that they have to remove some Pride merchandise from the store. On the other hand, the poor Target employees who are getting harassed, getting shoved, getting things thrown at them, have abuse hurled at them. They don't deserve that. Wow. If that means that the Pride display has to go just to the back of the store, I mean, they're not taking it away. They're not even taking all the merchandise away. Most of them still have them. Hell, Walmart has a Pride collection. Right. So our representation is not going away. But these rabid people, these moms for liberty, these patriot fronts, these random internet commenters who think that they're edgy about harassing people on TikTok, they are there, they are vile, and they represent a real physical threat to these poor guys and girls who are barely making minimum wage.
Well, as a Yankee, I think the key words in the story here are the South. Yes, these people are still our allies. I'd be more concerned if Target was relocating Pride displays in stores in other parts of the country.
Actually, I hate to disappoint you, but I'm pretty sure at least one of the anti-Target viral clip came out of California.
Well, okay,
but primarily it's the South, it's Southern stores.
And you'd think that these straight rednecks would be too busy having sex with their siblings to get all het up about Pride Month. I mean, really?
No. I mean, in this political environment, everyone it's angry first and thinks second. The Targets and North Face and Anheuser-Busch or InBev now, they all have the means to work around this. But we as a community, in the 25 years that we've started just seeing all of this corporate support, we have failed ourselves by not having programs in place for difficult moments like this. We have been so busy celebrating all these different steps forward that we have forgotten that politics do change.
So it's more complacency, you're thinking?
It is a complacency, because the first thing that we should be doing as a community is going out and buying every damn piece of merchandise from Target. We should be supporting InBev beverages, Anheuser-Busch. We should be supporting all these different groups however we can, to say thank you for being there, and remember that we represent $1 trillion in cash throughout the United States.
And then, but on the other hand, we have a left flank that says that there are many activists who complain about the corporatization of Pride over the years.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Merchandise. I agree with you, buddy. I agree with you. I don't care if it is just because they want to slap a rainbow flag on it and call it a day. It doesn't matter. The thing is, they value us over them.
Right.
Yeah.
There's an us and them situation now. Us, they support. Them, they are hiring security guards.
Well, there are. I'm sorry, Dion, go ahead.
No, I think that when it comes to corporate position, for these big corporations, it's important that they make their voice heard. Yeah, I mean, how they enforce this, like Disney. I mean, we have been going through this with Disney, and they went to battle with Ron DeSantis. Money talks in this country. So let's see who has, so at least, but when it comes to corporate, responsibility, that they have a responsibility to us too, and our money matters.
But it's not just our money; it's being right. We have finally gotten federal legislation to allow for marriage. We finally have got these rights where we're sitting at the table. So the corporations know this, and they realize that they have to represent as many different sides as possible, but they know right is right.
Well, I think there are two reasons why this continues to keep happening. One are these guerrilla type protests and these activism. One, these people are just ignorant. They're ignorant, closed-minded, grew up in an ignorant, closed-minded environment, passing it on to their kids. And so it's working. They keep coming back because it's working. This has, we see it at drag queen story hours at public libraries. We see it all over the country and the Western world where, people just show up to any kind of gay event, start throwing things, start intimidating, and it works because events get canceled. Displays get moved to the back. And second, this has absolutely, in my opinion, nothing to do with rainbow capitalism. In past years, we have all said, oh, they come to us, in late May through early July, and they want our dollars, and then they ignore us the rest of the year. But that's not this. This is rainbow capitalism, but they're here for us, and they're trying their best. I believe it was you who said we need to get out there and buy every single piece of merchandise.
We need to support them.
We need to go in there and then put it on our Instagram accounts. We need people to TikTok about it, like at the store buying it. And I don't know what the hashtag would be, but we need to start a social media campaign where the corporate people can measure, because, they're not reading our comments. They've got computers looking for positive comments, AI and stuff like that. So we need to go out there and we need to make sure that our numbers are being counted and are being seen. When they ring up the order, they'll see how much inventory is moving out. Right. That's what we need to do. This is not about rainbow capitalism. This is about supporting the people who are supporting us. And believe me, Target supports us all year round. The fact is, most of the country doesn't need LGBTQ tank tops for 6 or 7 months of the year. So fine, if you don't want to carry them in December, that's fine. But they're here to support us, and we really need to support them, and we need to find new ways to support them.
But we also need to say thank you. I go out of my way when I see a Pride event, a display of something in a store. I will stop the manager and say thank you.
Yep.
And I will get the receipts. The customer comments. I email them because that counts as much as the dollar bill.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Next, let's clear up the worldview. Leaked report shows LGBTQ plus British soldiers were once subjected to electroshock and conversion therapy. According to Bloomberg, the copy of the report received reportedly details how UK LGBTQ plus military staff was forced to endure so-called conversion therapy, sexual assault, unwanted surveillance, and blackmail from their superiors between 1967, when homosexuality was partially decriminalized, and 2000, when a ban on gay soldiers serving in the military was lifted. Anonymous testimony from one victim on the report includes descriptions of having electrodes attached to their head, being shown images of women, and being given shocks that left bruising and burn marks on the skin. Other veterans told the Review they were sexually assaulted by senior staff and then either dismissed when they complained or told they would be outed as gay and dismissed from the forces. One woman, who said she joined the Navy in the 90s before being kicked out for being gay, detailed how her treatment led to alcohol dependency and a negative effect on her mental health. The LGBTQ plus Veterans Independent Review was carried out by Chair Lord Etherton, independent of both the government and the armed forces, and was reportedly submitted to the government last week for review and response. I don't know if you remember, just a few months ago in January 2023, the Church of England issued a formal apology for its treatment of LGBTQ plus people. And now, in May 2023, this horrific story comes to light. Meanwhile, how many queens were boo-hooing over the passing of Queen Elizabeth II and then watched the coronation of Doofus Charles? Well, we just really need to seriously think about our fascination with these horrible colonialists and what they've done to our
Well, I'm not saying that colonialism is great. And well, I mean, I grew up in Hong Kong, the only colony that the British ever did right. I mean, because honestly, Hong Kong was Hong Kong before Xi Jinping ruined it because of British. It wasn't because of the PRC, that's for sure. But this reports detail. But on the other hand, these conduct takes place from 1967 to 2000. I cannot guarantee you that U.S. Army did not do the same.
Right.
Be surprised.
And so, you know, glass houses. So in other words, I just think that the Prime Minister should apologize. And the royal family has nothing to do with it. They don't oversee military policy. They're just figureheads. They're there to stand and look pretty and stand in castles so that other tourists will take pictures because the castles are occupied versus the ruined ones in France.
Yes,
and
just yesterday I was watching CBS News and they were talking about a case, you know, in the U.S. military, you know, and not long ago, you know, in the 80s, I think it was 80s, 90s, and this guy, you know, the U.S. Armed Forces were trying to find reasons to charge LGBTQ personnel with some kind of law, and this guy went to jail. He went to jail for a few years, and, you know, then he was released. But, you know, the reporter from CBS News were saying, well, why don't we start with, like you said, how about an apology?
Right.
You know, now that the law has changed, not even an apology. He has a record. He has not received benefits, obviously, you know, and in the meantime, years gone by, he couldn't get jobs because of the record. I mean, is the impact post, you know, this awful, you know, part of the history of the U.S. and then, you know, even the don't ask, don't tell, you know, and what the consequences have, you know, it didn't end there. Today, this person is still dealing with the consequences. And, you know, no apologies from the U.S., you know, armed forces. So.
And right now, I'm pretty sure that the British government is running a program where any kind of homosexuality-related offenses, if you were convicted because of those, you can get your record expunged. And so the same thing should be done to the British Armed Forces for those people who were kicked out because they're gay and because they're forced out because they were harassed.
Well, and remember, the U.S., I mean, there's a couple points. First, the U.S. didn't allow openly gay people to serve for another decade after Britain. So, you know, as you said, glass houses. One of the things that surprised me the most about this study is that this was happening in the 80s and the 90s. Right. And not that it was ever correct to do, but I think it's one of those things that you sort of associate back with post-war, the 1950s, maybe 1960s. But this was happening just like in all of our professional careers. You know what I mean? This isn't something I read about in the history books. This is something that was happening while we were doing our thing.
Conservatism of the military, of the armed forces.
Right. Yeah.
They weren't like entertainment reporters. They were soldiers.
Well, if they'd been entertainment reporters, they'd have been a lot happier. First off, we don't have to get up at 5 in the morning.
Well, but let's also, I have to give at least hope that with this report, things are desperately going to change. They are at least a mile ahead of where we are in the military because they're discussing it and they're admitting it and they're investigating it. And it sounds like they're willing to make plans to rectify it to certain degrees in terms of, you know, the erasing the false charges and possibly encouraging or offering some kind of financial obligation and restitution. We here in the United States are not. So, you know, I'm glad that we're discussing this, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel, at least in this particular situation for the history, that maybe we can hopefully not see it happen again. And that's what this is giving me hope for.
Yeah, but like you said, Britain is a mile ahead of where we are.
And that's us.
But that's bad enough. We've still got a good 30 to 40% of our population that wants to take us backwards.
And I understand that, which is why we need to.
Which is dangerous.
We need to understand our histories. We need to build our allies. We need to build our business partnerships. This whole episode of the show is all about working together and finding the resources that we need to stand up and fight back.
Absolutely. Well, now Let's queer up Out South Florida. A new publication, same commitment to community. Journalism matters. I only met Norm Kent a handful of times, but each time he said to me, journalism matters. One of his many legacies to South Florida and the LGBTQ plus community is local LGBTQ plus focused journalism. Norm is gone. Norm's paper, South Florida Gay News, or SFGN, is also gone. But what's not gone is journalism. Tomorrow, Out South Florida will launch its first edition, and I am proud to be joining the publication as senior reporter. We will continue to cover the good, the bad, and the ugly warts of LGBTQ+. We will promote community events like Flockfest Beach Party and fundraisers and Floatorama's pre-Stonewall Boat Parade. We will cover new businesses moving into the area and make sure your voice is heard when it comes to redevelopment and its impact on LGBTQ+ culture. Out South Florida will also cover many of the stories that many people don't want told. Sure, you will learn about the Republican fascist attacks on us, but we will also hold our own institutions accountable. Not because we want to, but because we have to. So tomorrow, a new chapter begins. It will be the first draft of how we deal with the existential threats to our community. The mission is simple. Journalism matters. And it has never mattered more. And I'm incredibly proud to be continuing to do what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years with SF and here and with OutClick. And certainly Hotspots brings a lot to the table. We've got 4 independent, strong media, LGBT-focused outlets. Some regions only have 1, and it covers 4 or 5 states. We've got 4 covering essentially 4 counties. We're incredibly lucky to have what we have, and I am pleading for your support, not just for Out South Florida, but also for OutClick, and here for us at Happening Out, and for Hotspots, because together we are all stronger. And together we all make our community stronger. Gregg, I know that you wrote for SFGN and you're going to continue to do some writing for us.
Honored and grateful to continue doing entertainment coverage for Out South Florida.
And we can still read your screensaver column in the new publication.
Yes.
Yes.
I will be there. I'm very happy to be there.
Me as well. I'm glad you're there. Jason, Justin, I know this is a hard time. Starting a new business, starting a new brand is never easy. But these are hard times, and we are up to the job.
And I'm hoping that I will be able to actually speak with them about writing for them as well. I mean, I will be very happy to.
That would be great. As many voices, perspectives, that's what drives this show. That's what drives Out South Florida. It's what drove SFGN.
Representation.
Representation, yep. And it does matter.
Fantastic.
All right, well, let's continue on with the show and do a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. The Tri-Rail is making summer travel easy with service to South Florida's airports. Summer is almost here, and for many, this is the reason of traveling. The season of traveling. Tri-Rail can get you on your way with train service to South Florida's airports. Fares are as low as $5, and it's convenient with direct service to Miami International and free connecting service to Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach airports. Tri-Rail is your trip starter with luggage racks on board and free Wi-Fi too. Take the train to the plane. Tri-Rail operates every day of the year as the area's premier commuter rail service. It also pays to ride Tri-Rail to work, school, regional events, and popular destinations.
It's summer and time to travel. Whether you're going to New York, Las Vegas, or Paris, Tri-Rail can get you on your way with train service to South Florida's airports. Fares are as low as $5. Plus, it's convenient with direct service to Miami International and free connecting service to Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach airports. Tri-Rail is your trip starter with luggage racks on board and free Wi-Fi too. Take the train to the plane.
Tri-Rail gets you where you want to go.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting the partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday international service at 10:30 a.m.
And so now we're back to LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. So let's queer up LGBTQ plus civil rights. Japan's Supreme Court rules against same-sex marriage ban. A second Japanese court has ruled against a ban on marriage equality. The ruling comes despite the country's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida claiming the ban wasn't discriminatory to the LGBTQ plus community. Currently, same-sex couples are only able to engage in civil unions, and even then, only in certain areas such as Tokyo, with Japan's constitution stating that marriage is between a man and a woman. Activists and supporters welcomed the decision outside the court, and Japan's main opposition party, the Constitutional Democratic Party, submitted a bill calling for same-sex marriage to be legalized.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up gay culture. Out pro wrestler Anthony Bowens breaks the internet modeling Rihanna's Savage X Fenty Pride underwear. Professional wrestler Anthony Bowens revealed he's one of the faces of Savage X Fenty's new Pride campaign. Savage X Fenty's Pride collection is full of mesh and brightly colored thongs, jogs, bras, boxers, and bustiers, as well as a range of loungewear. The brand is owned by Rihanna and has long-used models of all shapes, sizes, and genders. It's no surprise that it's again celebrating Pride season with some dedicated designs. He wrote on Instagram, quote, "Very proud to be one of the faces of the Savage X Fenty 2023 Pride line, available now," end of quote.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up sports. An update on transgender mountain climber Aaron Parisi. Aaron Parisi is the American mountaineer set to become the first trans woman to summit the highest peak on each of the 7 continents. We had an interview with her on the show, Unapologetically Queer. Aaron is currently with the 2023 AAI Denali West Buttress Expedition Team 2 and is currently camped at Camp 3 at 14,200 feet after dropping a cache above 16,000 feet. They are currently enjoying hot drinks and plan on taking a well-deserved rest tomorrow. Team 2 started climbing on May 20th, and they will be back by June 9th. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots magazine, Happening Out television network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm John Hayden, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Dr. Dino Mosquera, Dr. Buddy Frey, Dr. Bobby Huen, and Dr. Gregg Birthday Boy Shapiro, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus, don't wave yet, we're not there. To our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you good night.
Good night.
Now wait, wave, keep waving.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.